Now in the previous training video we learned how to move our database completely to the SharePoint site. Once it's moved and I open it up, I can go ahead and continue working with it with a direct link here, a connection, or if I break away from the connection, in other words I work offline, like let's say the server's down or I go ahead and disconnect my computer from the network, that's offline. And then later when I plug back into the network or the server's up, I can go ahead and synchronize up my data, any changes I make, and it'll go ahead and update the database on the SharePoint server. Now of course if the server isn't down or you haven't disconnected from the network, at least unplugging it directly, you can always of course come up here, click on the External Data tab, go to the SharePoint list workgroup and just click Work Offline. It will disconnect you from the SharePoint. Of course we'll type in our username and password and hit enter. Taking us offline, it takes a few seconds. Now we know that we're offline because it changes from work offline to work online. So we can go ahead and do whatever we need to do. Another indicator is it's from orange, that nice bright orange, down to just a kind of a deep blue with the orange icon behind it. It means that we're totally working off our computer without any direct connection to the server here. We're disconnected. So we can come in here, open up a table like the billing info table, make some changes. Instead of the contact's last name being Johnson, we could just say Johnson's. Anyways, you get the point. I go ahead and click off on a blank record to save it. Notice the pencil's still there, but it's faded. Again, it's working offline. It needs to keep track of it, but it is saved, the record. Just when we reconnect, it needs to remember this so it can update the data on the SharePoint server. Now, before I go ahead and work back online or even synchronize up with the server to change the updates that I made here to reflect it on the server, you also have the discard changes before you connect. You can click on the drop down arrow and say discard all changes. When I click on it, well, it dumps me out of the table. Of course, you have the discard all changes and refresh, which will temporarily connect us online. But what I'll do is I'll go ahead and open up the billing table. It used to be Johnson's, right? Well, it discarded the changes before I go ahead and work online and synchronize it back up with the server. In other words, you can make all the changes you want, but if you don't like the changes, then go ahead and discard them. Which is pretty cool because if you made a lot of changes within the table and you want to discard all the changes, but you can't remember what changes you made, well, that can be a very helpful feature. Well, let's go back and make our changes again. Something simple here. Johnson's. Click off in a blank area. Then we can go ahead and close out. And then when we're ready, we can go ahead and click on Synchronize the changes we've made to the SharePoint server. And now it's going through. Now, if you run into a problem where somebody's making changes at the same time you are from another computer, then you're going to get a little window, pop-up window, say that there's conflict issues. Well, what you can do is that you can click and retry all changes. In other words, you're just basically battling for king of the hill. So if I update it at the same time and he gets an issue and I get an issue, I can go ahead and say resolve issue and see if I can still go ahead and make my updates after he's done with hitting me at the exact same time that I'm hitting him to make those updates. So in other words, you're just waiting until they're done, then you can go ahead and update your changes. So again, open up the billing info. It's Johnson's. I can go ahead when I'm finished, after I synchronized my data, I can go back to working online. So now I have a constant connection. So you can see it's reconnecting all the tables. Then once it's relinked or connected back to the database online, the SharePoint server, you can double click to open it up, make sure it accepted it here. And of course, let me close out of here, go to the website itself. Go ahead and click on integration, and we'll do a read-only this time. We don't care about editing it. There we go. It opened up our database on our local computer here, but with the direct connection to the data, so I can go ahead and double click on billing info. There it is, Johnson's. So great. Anytime you make an update, it reflects on the server, the SharePoint server, anybody who's connected to it and has it on the back end. You can all be linked to that same database and all make these changes. But just keep in mind again, if you do it at the same time, you may have to wait and click retry. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel, get notified of the latest videos, and for only $2 a month, you can have access to all my Microsoft Office training videos.